Hello and welcome everyone, Lionheart here, and today I'm taking a look at MSI's GTX 1070 Gaming X graphics card. This is from the latest lineup of Nvidia's Pascal graphics cards, and MSI have sent me over their Gaming X version of their 1070. So let's dive on in and take a look at the specifications first, then we'll move on to the design, followed up by benchmarks and conclusion. So, starting off, the GTX 1070 features 1920 CUDA cores. Now, depending on which profile you set the card to, but be it overclock mode, gaming mode, or silent mode, you have a different set of frequencies, which you can see up on screen now. All the benchmarks that I will be showing you later are all done on the overclock mode, although the overclock profile that MSI shipped this card out to me was overclocked even further, with the boosted core clock that you'll see in the benchmarks at 1970 odd megahertz. So that is quite a beastie overclock, and I said those will be what the benchmarks are running at, but up on screen you can see the various different kind of base and boost clocks, but this already has a rather impressive overclocking headroom that you can do via the gaming app that MSI give you with a kind of just quick change between profiles, or if you want to take that further, and I have been able to push this to over 2000 megahertz, and I've seen other reviewers push it even further using the latest beta from the MSI Afterburner application, so you can use that too. It comes with 8 gig of GDDR5 memory, a 256-bit memory interface, and again, up on screen you have the various memory clock speeds depending on which mode, which profile you have the MSI GTX 1070 set to. Again, we'll be on overclock mode for the benchmark, so we'll be at 8108 megahertz for testing purposes. Output from the graphics card features 3 display ports 1.4, an HDMI 2.0, and a DVI-D output. Also takes 2 power connectors, one 8-pin and one 6-pin. So let's talk design, and pardon the pun, but I am a massive fan of MSI's fan design for their graphics cards. Their twin Frozer design has been kind of a staple of their cards for many years now, and they're on their version 6 now, with the Pascal lineup of graphics cards from Nvidia. It's really nice to see that MSI have kept with the kind of angular, kind of almost more aggressive design that Nvidia introduced with the Founder Editions cards, and they've got kind of more grooves, more edges almost to the card, which I think looks really good. Again, that red and black theme, dragon logo, and on the back plate as well, there's a really nice dragon logo on the back as well. Really like that solid back plate as well. It just feels, like the premium product that it is. And again, if you have a red and black theme setup going for you, hands down, this is the card, this is the design for you. They've also added in some LEDs because everything has LEDs these days. Obviously the MSI logo, which you can change the individual colors of that RGB, so you can do that all via the gaming app and add animations of breathing and flashing and things like that, or even reacting to music. And then along the right hand side, top and bottom of the card, you have these red LEDs as well. I wouldn't mind the kind of ones more to the center to be a little bit brighter. They seem a little bit dimmer, but it's still really kind of added to the card, and it looks pretty cool if you've got a case with a window on it. Just those red accents with the LEDs there looks pretty darn nice. So overall, really good design. That twin Frozer cooling system is just, again, really on point. Helps keep the card super cool. Up on screen now you can see a screenshot of the HW monitor that I use to monitor all my temperatures on my PC system, and you can see the maximum temperature for the MSI GTX 1070 topped out at 64 degrees. Now that was after running the Heaven benchmark, which is a pretty intensive benchmark for the GPU, and I'll show those results at the start of the benchmarks in a moment. But yeah, 64 degrees with that after that benchmark had been running. That's what it captured with that benchmark going. Very impressive cooling system, and again, if you've had an MSI card before, you'll know this is technology that they've used for a couple of card generations now, but the fans won't kick in by default until the temperature of the card reaches 60 degrees or higher, and this is to reduce noise within your PC setup, although with this latest iteration of the Twin Frozer, the 6th version design, it is quieter than the previous one by a fair percentage anyway. But if you do want your fans spinning before that 60 degrees is hit, then you can tweak that in Afterburner and what have you, and adjust that fan curve, that profile, to your heart's desire. But yeah, I really like that feature, and again, you know, in this case, we barely needed the fans to kick in, because we only just got to 64 degrees after the benchmark. Obviously after more intensive gaming sessions, but all throughout my benchmarks this was the highest temperature that was recorded, and I was testing for a fair while. But yes, pretty darn reasonable temperatures there. In fact, very good temperatures there. And that all comes down to the tweaks and changes they've made, not only to the Twin Frozer design for the 6th version, but also to the heatsink itself. They've gone for some flat 8mm pipes going through the heatsink to give even more kind of direct contact to the GPU to aid in that cooling process. And it definitely seems to have made a difference there with those copper pipes, with that flat square shape going through the heatsink and maximizing the heat transfer from the surface of the copper base plate, which obviously connects to the GPU itself. So let's talk benchmarks again. As I said at the start, this is using an overclocked profile which came applied to the card from MSI, so the boost clock speed will take this card up to 1970 megahertz during these tests. We're going to start things off with the Heaven benchmark. Up on screen now you can see the results for the GTX 1070, and again I'm going to be comparing the 1070 to an MSI GTX 980 Ti throughout all these benchmarks, and you'll be able to see on the little bar charts the FPS difference between the two, testing at both 1080 and 1440p. So, with a score of 2,358 and average FPS of 93.6, that's for the 1070. Switching over to the 980 Ti, 2,338 and 92.8. So, barely anything in it, but the 1070 just ahead there of the 980 Ti at a ultra quality, extreme tessellation, 8 times anti-aliasing, 1080 test. So let's get stuck into some games now. I'll be testing Total War Warhammer, Tom Clancy's The Division, and Rise of the Tomb Raider. So, up on screen at the moment we have Total War Warhammer 1080 at max settings. This is with everything maxed out on Total War Warhammer using its built-in benchmark. We can see the 1070 at 59.1 FPS and the 980 Ti at 54.2. Those are with settings absolutely tuned up. Those aren't the settings that I would run the game at, with a few little tweaks and changes which you can see up on screen now. Here are the benchmark results from kind of my personal settings that I use to record all my gameplay, do my live streams on, and all that at 1080. So with those settings and those tweaks and changes, the 1070 Gaming X from MSI gets 92.4 and the 980 Ti gets 86. Moving on to 1440p, again with my settings, because obviously with those max settings 1080 we were just about to get, you know, that 60 FPS gaming experience, but obviously throwing the resolution up higher than that to 1440p will bring it down, and for me I'd like to try and keep it above 60. So sticking with my settings, which I think look absolutely fine anyway. If you've watched any of my videos you'll probably agree that everything looks fine. So with my settings at 1440p, the GTX 1070 Gaming X holds its own 61.6 FPS, MSI a GTX 980 Ti 55.4. So perfect for 1440p gaming, even on Total War Warhammer. And again, these are with settings still nearly maxed out. So if you wanted to gain some extra FPS, you could still tweak a few settings here and there to get some pretty good performance yields. Moving on to the Division with its 1080. This is at the Ultra preset. The only tweak I made to the settings was to turn VSync off. The GTX 1070 Gaming X gets 77.1 as its average FPS, and the 980 Ti gets 72.4. Moving on to the Ultra preset Division at 1440p. The 1070 Gaming X 58.1 and the 980 Ti 50.5. So again, a few tweaks here and there, and you'll be able to get that solid 60 FPS experience at 1440p fine as well. Going on now to the DirectX 12 title test, as it were. The only one I have available at the moment is Rise of the Tomb Raider. So this is a DirectX 12 very high preset at 1080p with FXAA anti-aliasing. So the GTX 1070 Gaming X gets 111.57 FPS, and the MSI GTX 980 Ti gets 107.89 FPS in that test on DirectX 12. Going on over to 1440p, again, very high preset with FXAA, Tomb Raider, DirectX 12, 74.29 FPS for the 1070 and 67.36 for the 980 Ti. So that was the benchmarks for the MSI GTX 1070 Gaming X, coming ahead of the 980 Ti in all of those benchmarks by a pretty reasonable amount here and there. Obviously, that higher clock speed for the core really helping it out and getting some rather impressive results. Although the 980 Ti are not doing badly itself, but if you are looking for a Pascal GPU that can handle games easily at 1080 and happily at 1440p, then the 1070 is a pretty good card to take a look at. And from what I've seen from reviewers that have taken a look at the 1080, if you do continue to push this card and overclock it, again using MSI Afterburner, then you will get closer. You will close the gap between the 1070 and the 1080 by a fair bit. You won't be able to match the 1080 from what I've seen, but the 1070 can get pretty darn close. And with its excellent cooling solution, the Twin Frozer version 6, it's not going to be troubled by heat. Even if you do continue to ramp up that core clock with overclocking. But already that overclock profile is doing a fantastic job and running all the games that I could throw at it very happily. So before we wrap up this review, briefly talk price. Now I would highly recommend you shop around because the price does seem to vary a fair bit from site to site. I've seen a variance of about £40 here in the UK. On Amazon UK you can pick up the 1070 Gaming X from MSI for £429.99. Amazon US, $538. But do shop around and find the best deal, the best offer that you can. Because I have seen this card going for £469 in the UK. So best to check all the sites and see where you can get the best offer. So to wrap up, this is a solid card from the Pascal lineup, and coming in at £200 odd cheaper than the 1080, it's getting very impressive results. Certainly with the benchmarks I threw at it, and even over the 980 Ti, which was a solid card from the last generation of NVIDIA cards. It's able to go a little bit beyond that. And again, as I said, there's a lot of overclocking headroom, so you can probably take that even further if you wish to. So if you are looking for something around that £400 odd price mark, perhaps if you're even looking to SLI, with NVIDIA now just supporting that two-way SLI setup, the 1070s look pretty solid. But that's where I'm going to wrap up the review. So big thanks to MSI for sending this over. Sad to see it go off, but it's got to do the next round of reviewers. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comment section. Have you picked up a 1070? Have you gone for the MSI Gaming X? Do let me know. But anyway, until next time, I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Take pride and join the Legion. Check out my affiliates and sponsors, XMG, Green Man Gaming, and Overclockers UK. Until next time, ciao for now.